Are you ready for episode 105? The statewide READI program offered significant funding to local efforts and amenities. Molly Whitehead, executive director of the Boone EDC, stops by to give us a deeper look, sharing which projects got the green light and others that will receive attention. She also shares how the EDC is helping residents maximize their potential. Episode 105 starts now.
Welcome to the Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to lebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, on this episode of our podcast, we are getting ready for the READI grant. You see what I did there, Molly?
I do. It's
great. Yeah, very hilarious. Joining us on this episode is Molly Whitehead. She is the executive director of the Boone County Economic Development Corporation. Molly, thanks for being here on the podcast.
Thanks, Joe.
And sorry for the pun to lead and start things off.
You and the mayor love good puns.
You knew it was coming, so wanted to be able to chat with you about READI. You may have heard about it, but you may not have. This is the Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. Aren't you glad I wrote that down?
I am glad because I have no idea what READI stands for. So good job.
There we go. And I only know because I Googled it and I wrote it on this piece of paper in front of me. But what it means is a chance for communities and certainly Boone County, and we'll talk about the EDC's involvement in that, but a chance to accentuate, augment amenities within our respective communities. If you can, the Boone EDC was really kind of leading the charge and kind of circling the wagon, so to speak, about this whole READI grant process. Can you kind of walk us through what that looked like from your perspective?
Absolutely. So back it up about 18 months ago, the state of Indiana announced the READI program. It's a $500 million initiative, and the legislature appropriated that money to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, IEDC. They created the READI program, which is designed to provide funding to communities for quality of life, placemaking, talent attraction type projects. Grants that might not normally be available. So how can we infuse these dollars into our community and help make it a more desirable place for people to live, to relocate, perhaps from a different location? So we had to form a region. Boone County, with the exception of one of the municipalities, formed a region with 5 other counties. We're calling it the 180 Alliance because it's kind of on the 180
there we
side,
go. Okay, I got you.
180 side of 465,
okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
So Johnson, Morgan, Putnam, Hendricks, Montgomery, and Boone counties all joined together to apply for these funds. We received about $20 million in funding, and then we have then divvied that up equally amongst those 6 regions or 6 counties. Gotcha.
And this goes back to like the way of thinking of if you can create an environment where people want to live, they'll move there and then find the job. This is the complete 180, using the 180 Alliance deal, from where it used to be for
Absolutely.
Us when we were younger, but also our parents, where I'm going to find the job, and I hope I like the community where I'm going to be working, but I've found a great job. This completely turns it on its head.
Absolutely.
And so that's what they're hearkening into there?
That was the goal of the program. Now, as the program has kind of gone along, there are some ways that the money has been spent that may have deviated from that a little bit. But I'm pleased that here in Boone County, how we have appropriated those funds, at least at the present time, we have stuck to that original, we want this to be talent attraction and placemaking focus. So that's our lane, and that's where we're staying in for this program.
How tough was that to be able to differentiate from which projects kind of rose to the top of your list? Because I'm guessing with all those counties and the EDC being the driver for Boone County, helping local elected officials or appointed officials kind of help them kind of, this is where you're slotted when they want their projects to be at the top of the list. You guys have to do that?
Yeah.
Ish?
We tried to be as equal as possible,
okay.
Not only as a region, but then within our communities, or at least I can speak for Boone County. So how we chose to approach it for Boone County was we had what we thought would be kind of our pool of money. And what we did was we appropriated or kind of set aside some funds, some for the city of Lebanon, some for the town of Whitestown, and then some for the rest of the county. Lebanon and Whitestown could take advantage of some of that, but we also wanted to help out some of our smaller communities that might really not be able to access some of these funds. So that's how we divided it up when we initially applied, and we've stuck to that. What our region ended up doing is we had developed some regional programs programs, some things, and we'll benefit from that here in Boone County. We developed that, and then once we took out our regional funding, we had whatever amount was left. Long story short, it equals about $3.1 million that we're looking at for Boone County.
Okay, and if you can kind of hit the highlights from a countywide perspective, and I'm going to be selfish in the part B of this, looking for Lebanon, because we are on the Love in Lebanon podcast.
Absolutely.
We got a bend here. Can you kind of hit some of the highlights, some of those amenities that you look forward to being able to help in the talent attraction process?
Absolutely. So the big project for the city of Lebanon is Stone Eater Bike Park. We anticipate we'll have some official announcements about the READI participation coming out in probably the next month or so, let's say. Definitely by spring is when I would anticipate it. And then the bigger things that we're looking at for regional, but then for Boone County wide, downtown revitalization, what's called the 180 Makeover Program.
There we're going back to it.
Yeah, it's Makeover Program. But it's downtown revitalization funds. It's inclusive of some of the programs that we may have seen from maybe Okra, Office of Community and Rural Affairs, or Lebanon has a facade grant program. So this can amplify that. So for example, we could take a look at pairing facade grant programming or funding in with a READI grant to, redo some windows. Maybe there's an HVAC that needs to be replaced. And, one of the considerations too is, what do the buildings look like in the interior? How can we make these rent ready? And so that's been our goal. So looking at projects throughout the entire Boone County that could potentially take advantage of that program.
How great is it to be able to not just focus on one particular community, but be able to increase and raise the level, the tide in all the communities that the Boone EDC really helps and serves?
It's been a learning curve for us.
Different, climates in different communities.
There are. No one community is the same here, as we all know. No, it's a new program. READI is a new program. 180 Makeover is a new program. Some of the communities may not have ever been approached with an opportunity like this. And so we've had to do a lot of outside the box thinking. We've had to consider other projects that could be used as a match. So it's not been an easy process by any means. It's certainly not done. Nowhere close some days. But my thought is at the end that we have an opportunity to make some real transformational change throughout Boone County in some very select locations, and hopefully that spurs some additional development.
And we talked about the model kind of being flipped on its head. Are you still seeing that when it comes to the EDC's leads that come in, whether the state or folks that call your office?
We do. It's maybe not always the top question that every company has, but it does come up, especially in site visits. When the company comes into town, they want to take a tour. They want to see where our hospital is. They want to see what housing is available, what neighborhoods are out there. What about the school system? These are things that they do look for because they know that that's going to be a key component or key way they can attract employees.
And looking on the website, $2 billion in public and private matching funds. Molly Whitehead with the Boone County Economic Development Corporation, the executive director of that organization, kind of updating us and giving us a deeper look into the READI grant process that the state of Indiana has put out and how it affects us in here in Lebanon, of course, and Boone County as well. You mentioned housing, and housing study was part of the READI grant, and
it was.
Are you seeing Are you seeing any of that, and from a housing perspective, and in the workforce development side of things, seeing some significant findings there just yet, or
we
little
literally
ones?
just kicked it off at the beginning of February.
So yes.
So not yet. Although here's the thing: we know housing's an issue, right? We know that it's difficult to find something that's in good shape for the right price, and how inflated are prices right now. Interest rates incredibly high, so that's probably keeping a lot of people from purchasing. So there's a lot of different variables there, but we want to take a look at, again, countywide, what are our housing needs for workforce? Can't see me on here, but I put workforce in quotes.
She put air quotes.
And workforce means a lot of different things. We have Eli Lilly coming to town, and those are going to be 6-figure salaries. The type of house that someone who makes that sort of income might look different than somebody who's maybe working in one of our business parks, maybe not pulling a 6-figure salary. How do we accommodate all of those different price points? How do we help our employers who are looking for some sort of solution with housing. And then we'll take with that housing study, this is a little bit different than most housing studies. So for Lebanon and Whitestown, we'll look at just purely the housing. What's the need? What's the opportunity? And then how do we go out there and find it? But then for the western part of the county in particular, we're looking at a utility study with that to say, okay, what are the needs? Do we have enough sewer capacity? Where should these housing developments go, or what's the right type of product? So that's going to be like a year-long process. We are hoping to have some information along the way that we can trickle out, that we can get to housing developers, that we can get to the community, but the overall study is going to take some time.
Other needs that you're seeing from your office and from where you sit, whether it comes to talent attraction or, see a lot of now hiring signs, whether they be at fast food restaurants or out in the business park, as you mentioned, a lot of those employees have kiddos. How are we doing in kiddo care and things along those lines? What kind of needs are out there?
Yeah, so childcare is one of those issues that we're tackling for this year, probably many years, we'll be tackling this issue. Childcare, as I've kind of said around town, it's maybe the biggest economic development issue that we're really not talking about as much as we should be. So this year we're digging into childcare as one of the biggest issues impacting workforce development, economic development today. So we started to take a look at some of the data first and foremost. We know that we have just a few number of daycares or childcare facilities, and to clarify, I'm speaking really under kindergarten
Pre-K,
age,
sure.
pre-K, and even 2 to 3 year olds, right? So we know that there are very few in Boone County that are on that Pathways to Quality system, which is really an accreditation program system that daycares go through. And so there's one opportunity. Are there daycare facilities out there that we may be able to help get on that Pathways to Quality to provide a different level of care? In addition to that, we're taking a look at how many daycares in Boone County offer overnight childcare. The answer is 0. How many offer childcare past 6 p.m.? The answer is 0. So these are some challenges that, looking from a workforce development standpoint, it's hard enough as a parent working an office job. We both sit here and have flexible employers that if something pops up with our kid and we got to pick them up at 4:45 and leave work 15 minutes early, great. But not everybody has that flexibility to be able to do that. And so we know that that's impacting where workforce is even looking for a job. They may be limited to first shift opportunities only, which are always in high demand, after 6 p.m. What are you to do with your kid? And so there's some very real challenges out there. And then, from a policy standpoint, we're starting to uncover maybe some federal and state legislation that maybe is a barrier to the facilities themselves. For example, the types of food that they may have to serve to 3-year-olds.
So your run-of-the-mill, your chicken nuggets, your bagel bites, that type of thing
As
may
we
not cut it.
understand, that may not cut it.
Oh.
In which case, then you're purchasing, the daycare provider, or purchasing fresh food, which is
At
healthy.
expense, but
it's at an expense.
challenges, sure.
And so what can we do as an organization to advocate for some of those changes that may just make doing business easier? So it's a multifaceted problem. It's not going to solve itself overnight, but it's something we definitely need to chip away at.
And dumb question, and I know the answer, as we're talking with Molly Whitehead. She's executive director of the Boone County Economic Development Corporation. Not having kiddo care, that could mean not taking a job, not even factoring in to accept a job that would be at that day part, if you will, that time of day, because you just can't pick up little Johnny or little Susie on time or overnight daycare. Even that's not something even register with me, but having that option.
Yeah, and then the cost itself can be a barrier, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If it's actually cheaper for me to stay at home and not work because daycare is so expensive or preschool is so expensive, what do you do? Everybody's got to make that decision, right? But, for those that do want to be in the workforce, how can we eliminate those barriers and, get people into those positions and help our employers out, and overall, when you look at the impact early childhood education has along the way.
So the EDC is going to start down that conversational road, and I'm sure that it's kind of early in the process to get deeper in asking you those questions. But how driven are you, or what kind of focus is it on for you in your office to be able to have that as a primary focus as we get kind of rolling into 2023, to be able to meet that need as you see, to be able to provide for potential employees for companies?
Yeah, so we're kicking it off in early March. We found some statewide organizations. We don't have to necessarily recreate the wheel here. So we found some partners at the statewide level who are joining us. We're kicking it off with kind of an info session, for lack of a better term, with our employers, with other key stakeholders, with the daycares. They've been invited as well to join in the conversation with us to kind of kick it off. From there, what we anticipate this will look like is that we will form a small steering committee that will help us move the ball forward. And again, it's not going to solve itself overnight, and we'll just do what we can to chip away at some of these issues, and hopefully, again, just make it a better climate all around.
So people listening to the podcast can stay tuned for invitations to come out and be part of this conversation and kind of be able to hear more about what the EDC is going to be heading up.
We'll be pushing that information out, but of course, if anybody's interested in getting engaged with that, just reach out to us.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And we're talking with Molly Whitehead with the EDC here. Something else that really caught my eye, and you've spoken in a couple different public forums and at the fairgrounds and elsewhere, the maximizing your potential rather, program that EDC is got going on. So many great pictures I've seen on social media of folks doing just what the title would suggest. They're maximizing their potential. Yeah. How did that come about? And this is maybe a deeper podcast that we'll get into at a later date, but you've got to be thrilled with the traction, the early traction that program has gained so far.
Yeah, this is currently my favorite thing that we're doing. We stumbled upon this need, actually. So we at the EDC, we meet with our employers on a regular basis. We do, I think we did 80 business retention visits last year with our existing businesses in Boone County. And so one thing that always comes up, and it has for years now, is we need people who have soft skills, who know to come to work and have some basic financial literacy, right? So we partnered with one of our local banking institutions and this was a couple years ago, to offer these webinars just once a month. One was improving your credit score and how to save for Christmas. Things like that, simple things, how to save to buy a house. What does a mortgage look like? And so we hosted these webinars. We pushed it out to our employers, and nobody came from the general public. However, by some random chance, Boone County Community Corrections and Probation got a hold of the training, pushed it out to the clients, the people they're working with. And so they ended up, their clients joined us for this intro to your credit score. I hopped on as kind of the staff member for the night, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, who wants to sit through a 1 hour long webinar about credit scores?
In the evening.
Yeah. No, but okay. And then, listen, I go to a lot of meetings and a lot of people are disengaged, and I'm like, this is going to be like a high school classroom where nobody wants to be there. Yeah. The thing was, I was completely wrong. We had about 20 people show up to this, completely voluntary. And, that was the most engaged audience I have ever had at a Boone EDC event. They asked questions. They were into it. I didn't even have to prepare my own questions about a credit score, because they just took care of it. So one thing led to the other, and we just decided to create this Maximizing Your Potential course specifically for people who are involved in the justice, or who have been involved or currently involved in the justice system. And so it's a program. It's about 2.5 hours every other week. They meet over the course of 3 or 4 months, and we bring in speakers. They go through StrengthsFinder course. The big light bulb moment for us during that StrengthsFinder course was that a lot of the individuals who were participating, no one had ever told them they were good at anything. And so for them to walk away with, here are your top 5 strengths. These are the things you're really good at as a person.
What's that do to quality of life? And just
you could literally, Joe, see them when they start the first session and they've not really gone through their strengths yet, or at least they've taken the test but don't know anything about it. They're little disengaged, not really paying a whole lot of attention. Yeah. And it turned their physical body language changed over the course of just 2.5 hours as they learned more about what they're good at. The fact that maybe I'm not the only person who does whatever, right? We all had to kind of stand up on, if you've ever done this. Fun fact for me, it was like, have you ever been told you're not nice enough? I was one of the very few people who stood up for that, but I was like, well, honestly, but it's good to know that I'm not the only person, right? And so those things that can help them in the workforce to be able to say, I'm good at this. This is how I can help with this project, or as they're interviewing for a job. So take them through financial literacy, empathy, and how to interview for a job, how to do a resume, which that was a big eye opener for me as well. And send them through this program, and they go about their rest of their lives. And our goal is to help reduce recidivism, people coming back into the justice system. We have seen from the initial few classes that we've had a couple of people who have gotten job promotions. We've had some people who have gotten new jobs. We've had one individual who may have had a few issues, but because he went through that course, was able to get right back on that right path and was given a second chance from Boone County even. And I should also mention it's funded by the Boone County Commissioners through a grant. And so, yeah, I could talk all day on this, but we'll come back another time.
Maybe because Sarah in your office is also helping to facilitate that. And again, folks, if you are wondering about this program, and it just gives you the warm and fuzzies. If you look at the pictures on social media, people hearing they're good at things and they're receiving awards, and you can tell that there's kind of a pep in their step, a pride for sure. And so it's one of those things I look forward to bringing you guys back and being able to maybe talk deeper and maybe even have one of the recipients or one of the folks that went through that join us for that podcast. That'd be tremendous. As we kind of land the plane and wrap things up here, Molly, if you can kind of give us an overall temperature of Boone County and Lebanon specifically when it comes to an economic development perspective. I know, we've talked about the business park, and it continues to do great things and is getting pretty full of businesses that are making and doing and shipping a whole lot of run the gambit. How is the perception of Lebanon, and how is the overall climate as we get into 2023?
So 2023, I probably say this every year. Every year is just a little bit different. January, I would say, was on the slower side, actually. Is that just because it's January and everybody's getting back into the swing of things? Are we in a recession? How does that impact everybody's decisions? So just as we always comment on, wow, it was a little bit slow, then we get hit with...
So tomorrow you're getting some calls.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that works. And so I'm not the one in the office who responds to those leads any longer. It takes two people actually at the Boone EDC to do that now. But I think after we said it's really slow, we got 8 in within a 4-day period. And so that activity definitely has picked up, especially in the last couple of weeks. We do see, a decent number of leads coming in from the state that some of them are these mega projects, the multi-billion-dollar deals. They are out there. But we still see quite a few, quote unquote, smaller projects. 200 million, 100 million. I'll take a 5 or 10 million. Yeah. Any company that wants to come to this community will work with you, right? Yep. And so we continue to see that interest, and look forward to seeing some of the additional plans that the state has for the LEAP district, especially how they'll address some of the utility needs that are out there, because that does impact the rest of the community. So keeping an eye on that, but just continuing just to report back on strong activity and interest, and no complaints. We're busy.
And part of the busyness, everybody, is you're listening to the Love in Lebanon podcast to kind of put some things in economic development perspective and kind of shed some light on that countywide. The Better in Boonecast is something that your office has just kicked off. And so to really help out countywide and give it that economic development perspective, what led to kicking off the podcast? And I think I know the reason why, because it's a pretty effective medium.
As I was telling you before, it's the one medium that we had never tried. And I like podcasts myself. I especially like the ones that are about 10 minutes, because that's how long it takes me to drive to work. So I can get that information quickly and move about my day. So, we think there probably maybe some overlap in maybe some of our guests because, we're going to cover Lebanon as well. But,
But you cover 7 communities where Lebanon is one.
Yes, 7. The number is 7. I don't think of it in those terms for some reason. But we've got a much broader audience here. And there are some statewide groups that have an impact on Boone County that we at the EDC have been working with. So our first episode was Mel with Indiana Gifts here in Lebanon. We were involved in helping bring her here to Lebanon, but we'll be taking a look at random citizens who have a really interesting story. Fun days down in Whitestown with the ice cream. I think we did a coffee shop in Zionsville. So it's a variety of people and how they impact our community, and we want to share that message. It's not just about any one individual community. We want people from Whitestown to come up to Lebanon and eat. And people from Lebanon, it's okay if we go to Zionsville sometimes to eat, right? Or to shop or whatever that may be. So we want to help broaden everybody's kind of knowledge base, I guess.
Yeah, and the county has a great story to tell, and I'm so glad that you and the team are going to be able to tell it and do a great job at it.
We'll try.
And as the hashtag suggests, it's better in Boone County. And so everyone go out to wherever you get your podcast, where you subscribe and do all those things. Go to Better in Boonecast and hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the know when it comes to economic development related matters throughout Boone County and beyond. Molly, thanks for being here on the podcast. Joe. Appreciate it. Gave us an education on the READI grant and kind of went through a number of things that are going to benefit Lebanon both now and going forward. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Love in Lebanon podcast. More episodes are coming your way soon. Take care.